Top of the morning to you. I hope you're all fine and dandy and keeping ahead of the game. And it is a game, and each one of us get to play our part. Welcome to part 9B of Starforts, Star Citadels and Ancient Salt Waterways. And what we're going to look at today is I'm going to continue on from the last video there, Starforts, that we looked at. And I abruptly got cut off. My internet was lagging, and then suddenly it just poof, died on me when I was talking about Donald Trump. But today we're going to actually look at, in some way, a connection to golf clubs. It's a big club and you're not part of it. We're going to look at Starforts, Waterways, and we'll just continue on where I finished off on part A. And where we're in Aberdeen, or just south of Aberdeen, in Scotland, formerly known as Alba, and we're in a little place, picking up, from where we were before, in a little place called Cove, just south of Aberdeen. Now, in previous recordings, I suggest that you look at the previous recordings, because I'm trying to build up a picture here of our environment and where we actually live, and I'm trying to show how these people who should not be, those people who are in power through the royal houses of Europe, people such as Trump, Putin, any world leader really, I'm trying to show how these people have hidden our past, hidden the environment that's around us, and still use this environment today to control us. So where we were before is this little place called Cove, and I pointed out that there's a large structure here which is a dam, and the water would have come in here. You can see that it comes in through here. There's a dam up there in this area where the water has been blocked, and most of the water has been drained, and it's been drained. People ask, well, how did they get rid of all the water? Well, they've drained it through quarrying, mining, forestry, agriculture. Basically they've drained the water any way they could by digging into the ground and allowing the water to seep down. So here we are back at Cove, and I'll just say as well, this is the same all over the world. It doesn't matter where you go, it's the same all over. If you have been following my work and you follow my work on Facebook, you'll see that what I do is actually study the stars. I began my journey studying standing stones when I was a young boy, 10, 12 year old. I took an avid interest in it by the time I was 12, 13, and I began to map the heavens over the area that I grew up in when I was 12, 13, and that was here in Aberdeenshire. And I actually mapped the house of Cephas over this area, the house of Cygnus the Swan, and so on. I'll put a map in right here so that you can see how the constellations and the standing stones are all laid out according to the heavens. And that is what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to briefly try and cover what standing stones are and how they sit alongside these ancient waterways, which are now depleted, which are now drained and gone. Water is power, water is energy, and they've taken the waterways away from us and built roads over them and embankments and railway embankments on what was former waterways. And they have us travelling up and down these ancient roads, which were waterways, in order to harness our energy. And a lot of people ask me about Donald Trump. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Well, if anybody studies skeletal structures and the way people move and walk, he's not a guy at all. It's a woman, and he's a great deceiver. No, he's not a good guy. No, he's not there to help you. And by the end of this video today, I'll be able to show why he's buying up golf courses, why he buys up land, and how he made his wealth, basically, where your energy is focused. Well, he's focusing on where the energies once were, and he's a deceiver, or she's a deceiver. It's a woman. So let's go back to Cove, where we were. So right, we're just at Cove Bay, picking up from where I got cut off before, and what we were showing here is this massive structure, a brick structure, which is just blocking. You can see this wall here. It's blocking what was an ancient waterway. You can actually see the grooves where they put a large wall in, and then they built the railway embankment on top of it. Now people will say, oh, it's just because they had to construct a railway. No, it wasn't. This was a waterway, and the water gave us power, gave us free energy, and these scoundrels who aren't even living beings like us, these fallen angels, have came and blocked them all up. Now, what are the waterways? The waterways are, people talk about as above, so below. Well, the waterways down here are the dark spaces between the stars. So this area here I showed earlier on, and I'll put it in again, the map. This area here, you have the Cephas, you have Cygnus the Swan, you have Cassiopeia, you have Andromeda, and all this is all over. And then the central belt is Orion, Orion's belt, obviously. That's, you know, and Orion's belt was the area in all cultures, but you'll see this, you can find this quite easily within the Egyptian stories, that Orion's belt was where the Pharaoh, and all of us really, all of us had to make our way through Orion's belt and up into the house of Cephas. First coming through the Taurus field which sits over Glasgow, then arriving in Aries, then up through the Triangulum, then up into Andromeda. Andromeda's the one who Perseus in the Greek story is rescued from the Kraken, and the Kraken is the beast. We just had also known as the Leviathan, and this is why we get the area here known as Lothian. Leviathan is the great beast. We recently had the virus, I think I just said that. The Kraken, I think it was just last year. You move from there, Andromeda gets rescued from Perseus, as Perseus sits over the Perth area, obviously. And in the Greek story, he marries Andromeda and Cassiopeia, and who's the mother, excuse me, got a tickly cough, who's the mother of Andromeda, and the wife of Cephas sits over Aberdeen. King of Cephas is the word Peter, and the word Peter in Hebraic thought is Kepha, where we get the word Cephas, and it's Peter's pearly gates. So the great journey through Orion's belt wasn't the final part of the journey. You had to come to the Lamb of God, which was over, which is and still is over Edinburgh, Aries. From there you had to make your way through the Triangulum, and then up through into Andromeda, then into Cassiopeia, then into the house of Cephas, which is the house of resurrection. And this is why Queenie, or whatever it was, Elizabeth, died at Balmoral, because the house of Cephas, which is the house of resurrection, known as Peter's pearly gates, Peter, Kepha, Cephas, it's Peter's pearly gates. You have to come to Peter's pearly gates in order to rise up into Cygnus the Swan, which is the Northern Cross, and then you make your way over into the area known as the Great Bear, which sits over this whole area of Scotland. Arthur, the Great Bear, Ursa Major, and then Ursa Minor. Thuban, the star Thuban, and the Polaris all sit in this area, and this is the, let's say, the cradle of, no, it's not the cradle of civilization, it's the point of creation. This, from here all creation was made, and out, you know, and the garden was created from this point in the heavens. Not specifically this point, but Arthur, Ursa Major, moves around this area, and this is why we see in Germany Nazism, and Hinduism we see the symbol, which is known as the swastika. It actually represents the movement of Arthur in an anti-clockwise direction, the plough giving us the shape of the swastika, and everything comes from Arthur's wheel or Arthur's wain. And I think I've mentioned before, in Scotland we see a child is a wain. The word for child in Scotland is a wain. That's the wain's toy, that's the wain's car, that's the wain's, take the wain to the shop, take the child to the shop. And it all comes from the ancient Gaelic, Proto-Gaelic Celtic, which is Arthur. And you know, when we read the New Testament, I'll just slip this in as well, when the disciples, the disciplines, the ones who are disciplined, the 12 houses, when the disciples come to Jesus, the Messiah, they ask him, teach us to pray. And how does he begin that? He says, Our Father. So you've got Arthur the Great Bear and Ursa Minor, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. Ursa Minor's the little bear. And what does the Messiah say? In the Old English, the word is, the phrase, Our Father who art in heaven. That word art is the word, the Celtic, pro-Celtic, Gaelic, Pictish, and word for bear. Art is bear. So when Jesus says, Our Father who art in heaven, he's pointing us to Arthur, the great wheel that spins and manifests to the ends of the earth. And anybody who follows my work will know that the spine of Albion runs straight through Britain here, straight through Britain, and just here is Arthur's wheel, right in the centre where the spine of Albion goes. So the great tree of life is the spine of Albion, and all time, needless to say, all time is measured as Greenwich, the Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. So if you live in Canada, you may be 9 hours ahead. If you're in Australia, you're 10 hours behind, or so on. Sorry, it'd be the other way around. In Australia, we've been 10 hours ahead, 9 hours behind America. So everything's calculated from Arthur's wheel or from Arthur's wain, which is the Scottish word for child. And the reason why is because you've got Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, the child, the little bear. And in between it, you have Draco coming down. And Draco sits over Balmoral. But we'll not go too far into this. What I was trying to show there, or what I was trying to say there, is the waterways that are here on the earth, as above, so below. The waterways that were once here on the earth were salt waterways, and they're representative of the dark spaces, the voids between the stars. So when we look up into the stars there in the heavens, we will see Ursa Major, and we'll see Ursa Minor, and then we'll see the Draco between them, and we'll see dark areas between them. Well, these are all the waterways in Aberdeen, Shire, which I am trying to show just now. And I started this journey, as I said at the beginning, I started this journey as a young child. I was only 10, 12 year old. I had an interest in standing stones, and I thought, why are these all here? And thankfully the Father guided me. I had some trauma in my life at a young age, and I didn't have a good father. I had a stepfather who wasn't a nice being. And the Father in heaven found me and taught me these things. And I would often go away to standing stones on my own. I'd run away quite a lot because it was an abusive. He was an abusive man, my stepfather. Related to Trump, by the way, and Mackay. I have made a couple of posts. He was from the Isles of Skye, and the Trump family, the MacLeods and the Mackays, have always intermarried. So it's no surprise that you know, the evil that came into my life that tried to destroy me is related to the same evil that's running the big fraud worldwide just now, because Donald Trump is an absolute fraud. So let's take us back down to this waterway. What we're going to do is we're going to follow it, and I'm going to show just how they're controlling this. So here's the dam, and all this rubble they put in there just to block it up. But one thing I missed, well, I never missed, but it cut off. Notice this structure here to the side. So massive structure, all derelict now. It's huge, so it is. Need to come have a look at it. Need to get a group, and we'll go down and have a swatch to see what it is. There's steps going down. There's, you know, it's a big deep basin basically. But this is not just, you know, a small structure. It's massive. These buildings at one time, residential properties now, but these buildings at one time would have been part of this structure. Now, what exactly are these buildings? What were they? Why this height? Why so tall? These were machines, basically. The water would come in, and this was a canal. It wasn't a railway. The water would come in, and the water would fill over into sluices, and gates basically would be opened, and this would fill up with salt water. As the tide came in, this would fill up, and they would harvest the salt water for the production of hydrogen. And basically, when you split water contains is H2O, or water is, I should say, H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. And yeah, if you pass electricity through water, you can split and create the hydrogen, which gives you the fuel, and oxygen, which is, it can act as a coolant, and also oxygen helps things grow. So you often find that these structures and these buildings had walled gardens. They weren't walled gardens. These were salt pans for collecting the salt, and the towers and buildings were pulling down piezo electricity from the air. And if you follow anything, or you've read anything about Nikola Tesla and the Tesla Tower, you know, I'm not talking fantasy and fiction here. You can pull electricity down from the air. You can light bulbs. You can light a whole city and power a whole city by pulling electricity down. And this is what they're hiding from us. They're keeping us enslaved in servitude and moving along the ancient waterways. We travel back and forward to work on these roads from, you know, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then return again at night time. And this is all to do with the celestial movements as the sun and moon and the constellations move over from, you know, from the rising of the sun until its setting. These constellations were creating energy upon the earth, and the waters and the canals, or the dark spaces and the voids between the constellations, were pulling in the energies and creating energy, all this energy. So we're looking at this here. This is a large starfort here. It was a starfort, I should say, but they completely demolished it and dug it down. And I suppose in one way that's helped them get rid of this massive waterway. This entire area here, this field, would have been a waterway. You can see here there's a ridge. There's a ridge on the other side where people obviously walk their dogs and go for walks along, looking at the shores. But this was a massive waterway here. And where did this waterway go? Well, it went in to feed the estates, the starter motors. It went in to feed the buildings, or circulate around the buildings, and the buildings themselves pull down energy. And this is what the likes of Donald Trump and everyone else, all these real estate owners, this is, you know, real estate, real starter motors. This is why they buy them up. People ask me why does Donald Trump buy so many golf courses? He's bought ones up in the northeast of Scotland. There's a whole hoo-ha over, you know, the many estate and between Balmedia and Newborough. Well, these here are all called links. The word links is deeply tied to golf courses, and we'll look at that later on. But at the moment, why are they buying them up? Because energy still flows. So, your energy goes where your focus is. And yeah, even though they blocked them up, the heavens above never change. So you still have these canal ways, or dark black spaces, waterways, waters above, water below, in the canopy. Canopy, canals below. So in the canopy of the heavens, these energy lines and such still exist, but down here they've hidden it from us. So this here was a starfort, and on the previous video I showed how that the water came through here. You can see where the water came, and where we are now is we're at the Gateway Business Park in the northeast of Aberdeen, and this is where we just begin to move into the House of Cephas. Basically, the House of Cephas moves over this area, and we can actually plot, our ancestors plotted exactly where everything was. Now we can see this starfort here, you can see it completely hidden, taken out of sight, out of view. In between it you have the waterways, around it the waterway, and we'll follow this waterway here. Hope everybody's seeing this. Here's the starfort. It's a modern business park, and like I said in previous videos, I suppose in the old days we called them merchants, or mercat. The mercat, Aberdeen has a mercat cross, and the merc is the word mer, meri, which means water. Those who trade on the water. So can we see that starfort here? There's a starfort right there, hidden. And this was one here, and the waterways would have passed down through large industrial estates, merchants. The new names for merchants is corporations. Everybody's registered as a corporations. And again, if you watch my other videos, the Babel in the Heavens, or the Bible in the Heavens, Author Unknown, the other videos that I've got on here, you'll see how this journey through the heavens every day is manifest. And today we are made to go to work, as I said. We're made to travel on these ancient waterways, but we're not travelling the directions that our ancestors once knew. And the standing stones, which I'll show you, the standing stones themselves showed us the movements, showed us the water levels and the tide levels as they came in. So here we are, back again, just north of just north of Port Lethen, yes. And that word there, Port Lethen, Leviathan, Lethen, port, the port. You see, a portal. So this area here, another big starport, Baden-Toy. Baden-Toy, I'm not too sure if it's named after Baden-Powell, who's the guy who, you know, started the Scout movement, another paedophile, a twister, or a flip-flop, probably not a male at all, but, you know, some sort of fallen beast, angel, creature, one who fell from the heavens. So this Baden-Toy is a large starfort, and this here, a golf course, sandwiched between the Asda at Port Lethen. And the reason why this is a golf course is because it links between the stars. You can see the water still there. It's all been sculptured around the golf course. This would have been the waterway that went round the starfort. So you can see the water very much still there, but the golf courses are hiding them. Now, when I was looking at this, I've looked at this stuff for so long, but earlier today, as I started, you know, preparing to put this video together, I thought, when did golf courses appear? You know, so when were they? You know, so here's the history of golf, and the first thing it came up was in December 1650. The settlers of Fort, very important, Fort Orange, near present-day Albany, New York. York, if you're familiar with Combs Beaumont's work, you'll be aware that York, the original York in England, is Babylon. And this is why we have the Tower of Babel, because these were machines pulling energy down from from the heavens above. And New York is simply the new Babylon, moved to America. But you know, the first golf course was at Fort Orange, Albany, Albino, Albion. So these were Dutch settlers that came and, you know, created the area as Albany today, as it says here, the Dutch settlers. But golf actually has its origins in St Andrews. Most people know that the oldest golf course in the world is St Andrews, and I think it was sometime in the 1500s. So why am I mentioning that? Because these elite families, such as Trump, are buying up the waterways, and it's the waterways where the energy flows. And this happened in the first golf course in St Andrews was in 1568, I think, 1570. And if you've read the works of Combes Beaumont, the Britain-Syria conspiracy, the Roman conspiracy, you will be aware that that a great flood or a great catastrophe happened round about the 1500s, probably 1538, 1560. So within a few years, these waterways became choked up after the flood, after the deluge, and golf began. Golf had its origin. And why is that? Because the waters were no longer carrying the power, so they had to create something where people would visit these places and walk in these places, because bear in mind we're 70–80% water and salts in our body, many different salts related to, you know, the 13 months of the year. So they created this, they needed energy. So we are energy and we are connected to the stars, we're from the stars. So they had to get us into these places, and so it was quite a thing in the day. I suppose it was what the celebrities did. They played golf, and the word celebrity is connected to the word star. So very interesting here. I began by saying that my interest was in standing stones, and it's the journey finding standing stones that brought me to this knowledge. So here we have on the top of a hill here, Boswell's monument. A large tower. I don't know if we can get that up. Let's see, Boswell's monument. Let's look at the photographs. Let's just have a quick look at the photographs. Now, why would you build anything like that? Why would you build something like that, an octagon shape? What is that all about? These were machines. They were pulling down electricity, and as the water passed around this very large mound, look at the large rocks. This too would have been a starport, and as the water passed around these, they harnessed the energies from the waters moving. Please bear in mind that the waters above, or the gaps between the stars, are as below. So these are not just random, you know, towers and, you know, buildings. Even their churches and all that, they're not what they say. You see this large wall all the way around? This was to prevent the water, and the water did come up very high. This is very high, but as the tides came in and these waterways filled up, there were channels dug. Not far from here there's a large wall, I can't remember the name of it, we'll have a look at it later on if we get a chance. So these were actually machines pulling down piezo electricity, and then, you know, look at the shape of that there. What is that all about? Let's click and see if we can get onto that image. What is that? You know, what is missing from that? What do you think's missing from that? Copper? Yeah, a copper dome, a bell, a Baal, a master, a lord. Something that resonated the electricity down the tower and created a vibration and created piezo electricity. Vibration is frequency. So what I'm going to click on now is, in fact, let's just close that. Let's go back. Can we go back without losing? Now, never works the way you want it to, does it? So let's just shut that down. We don't need that. Anyway, so you'll see there's a quarry here, so they've got rid of the water here. As I said, they tend to, you know, this forestation is to get rid of the water, and the water would have came round this starfort here, swirled around this hill. This monument would have pulled it down, and right here we have, let's jump to the megalithic portal. As I said, my interest was in standing stones. Now look at this area. We're in this area here. Cove Bay's just here. These are all standing stones. Now what were the standing stones? The standing stones had served a number of purposes. They mapped, first of all, the movement of the constellations above, but also they were water markers. As the waters and tides came in, standing stones would sit in the hills or sit in the embankments, and you know, they too were early machines. Standing stones, stone circles were early machines. So let's see if we can find that hill. Let's go back out again. Messed it up. So there's the junction and hillside. The names are all still there. There's Baden Toy. See how this has standing stone there. So let's go back. You've got Baden Toy, Starfort, okay, and I should be able to find, I've been here, there we go, there's the standing stones there. So as the waters travelled round here, these were sort of measuring devices, but not just measuring devices. These would have had a large wall around them. You can see that the circle still there, and as the water bounced off and fast flowing, this is where we get the word torrent, as today, like torrents online, a torus field. As the torrent swirled around it, they would create electrical charge, and the stones themselves would be electrified, and people would go there to be healed and cleansed of, you know, whatever entities or spirits that were upon them. But today they blocked up the waterways, so these things standing stones don't function as they used to. But they were also markers for the heavens, so that our ancestors knew as the constellations moved over where to harness the energy. And we'll go back to this map here. You'll see that in a straight line here there's quite a few, and that is because it's a waterway. They follow a waterway, and when that waterway joins on to Mericooter up here, and this is hopefully where we're going to go today. We're going to go follow this waterway. So without further ado, let's follow the waterway, because I'm getting sidetracked here. So yeah, when I was looking, I did say without further ado, let's follow the waterway, but I need to show something else, right? Back to this here, golf. The word golf, what does that mean? It's a very interesting word. So here we go, golf, Scottish goof, usually taken as an alteration of the Middle Dutch kolf, which is a stick, a club, or a bat. Batman, bat. From Proto-Germanic kulth, and it's probably where we get Alcluth. Dumbarton Rock was called Alcluth. Yeah. So it's Old Norse, which means a clapper or a bell. Now think of churches, think of the bells, the metal devices that are on top of the steeples. Like in the picture I just showed you there would have been something metal at the top of that tower, Boswell's Tower. So it's German Kolben, mace. This is the interesting word. Club. It's a big club. Butt end of a gun. Now the mace is what they use to open Parliament. The mace is what they use in America to open the houses. I don't know what you call it. Can't remember what you call it. But the government bring in the mace and the fascia, which is bound up. Probably where we get the word bond, bondage. You know, the legal bond. We are the strong tower. We are like a tower. Each living being is a conductor, like a tower or a steeple. Each one of us, like a spire, our DNA aspires, a spiral, a spiro, a spirit. Each one of us is, you know, yeah, like a tower, like a mace. And this is probably where we get the word Masonic. Yeah. So anyway, the game is from the 14th century. The word is first mentioned alongside football, ball, foosball. In 1457, a Scottish statute on forbidden games, a later ordinance decrees that in no place of the realm there be visit footballs, golf, or other such unprofitable sports. And it was an act passed by King James IV. Not King James V, but King James IV. Now, why was that? We know everything about the evil about King James the Fifth and the King James Bible, but King James IV, actually, King James IV was murdered. The real King James IV was murdered in a place called Slains Castle, Old Slains Castle in Aberdeen, and you can find that out. Why was he murdered? Because he was trying to stop this. People go on about, oh, King James, he's evil, he's worshipped demons. No, an imposter came in. King James IV was murdered in Slains Castle, and that's probably why it's called Slains, in Aberdeenshire. You can find this stuff online, it's there. And an imposter was put in place. His son, King James V, the imposter's son, became the one who rewrote the Bible and gave us the Bible that we have now. So there's been a deliberate attempt in history to completely hide and destroy this knowledge of the heavens and this knowledge of as above so below. And King James IV, who was murdered at Slains Castle in Aberdeenshire, and then another imposter put in place. It was him and his father, and then later the royals that have taken over, who have hidden all this stuff. So let's go back to Boswell's monument, and the standing stones around here, we'll look at this waterway, and then I'll finish off. This is a waterway here coming down, and you can still see bodies of water here, there and everywhere. And where does this water go? It ends up in Mary Cooter, which is tied to Mary and Peter. In this area here you've got Peter Cooter and Mary Cooter. The cult Peter, the cult of Mary. And Peter is again taking us back into Peter, the house of Cephas, the pearly gates. They can't lie to us. Once you understand the heavens, you know who these people are. Once you understand that the spine of Albion is the tree of life, and that everything projects from Arthur's wheel through the tree of life, and it manifests to the ends of the earth. Once you know this, no matter where you are, like in America, we looked there at Fort Orange. Okay, Fort Orange was where golf is said to have taken off in America. Now, if we look at, the name gives it away, a portal, Port Orange. This was the first golf course, and when was that? The first golf course in America was in December 1650. The settlers of present-day Albany, remember the word albino, Albion, Alba, you know, the white ones. New York is Babylon, plays the first recorded round of golf. Again, what does the word golf mean? It means a mace, a club, a butt end, a clapper of a bell. You know, what creates the clapper of the bell originally? What made it? It wasn't people pulling on ropes. It was the electricity hitting the tower, bzz, boom, and then banging the metal to cause a vibration, which was then fed down the building. And it's all there, you know, the open parliaments with the mace, with, you know, with the mace and the fascia, just as they, you know, they opened the gates of heaven with the club that was the tower. When we read about the Tower of Babylon, this is where it's all connected to. It was an electrical device. They were piercing the habits and pulling the electricity down. Now, is that a bad thing? No, because if you read the book of Adam and Eve and the Cave of Treasures, which has been taken out of the canon of Scripture, you'll discover that the Starforts were created. And I've actually got a couple of videos on my Facebook page, probably I think I will have one on YouTube too, and it basically is what are Starforts, and it's a quote from the book of Adam and Eve telling you that the Almighty Creator created the corridors and shafts for the energies to move around. But somewhere in history, these usurpers, these royal bloods, came along and took over the estates, took over the powerhouses, and took over the spires and steeples that pulled the electricity down, just as we read about the Tower of Babel. These were machines pulling energy down, and they said, let us be like God. We don't need a God. We can be like God. We have power. This is what it all ties to. So, but let's go back to Fort Orange, and just as it says, it is a fort. That's a Starfort right there, I can see across the water, but I don't want to go there. I want to look at Fort Orange, where the first golf course is said to have been. Now, why would you put a golf course in a port or a fort? And anyone who's familiar with Starforts can quite clearly see that this is a Starfort. Look at this area here, this big wall, and it's amazing as we go down. This is known as the Empire State Plaza, nowhere near the Empire State Building, but this is known as the Empire. Hilton Albany, taking us back to the word Alban, and this whole area is a Starfort, and the water can still be seen here and there. Now, you might be thinking, Stephen, you're just clutching at straws. I haven't got time but I'm not. I haven't got time to look at it in detail. But let's just have a quick look at some of these buildings. So let's look at, these are more modern buildings, but look at these buildings here. Let's put it into 2D. We're looking at 3D. Why would you design something like that? These were machines pulling down electricity. This is a Starfort, and the water would have passed by here where the roads are. As I said, the hub was travelling on the roads, and these buildings were just huge devices. Now, remember the tower we just looked at in Aberdeen? It was an octagon shape. It had something missing from the top, but these two have much of the metalwork missing, but these things pull down the electricity. Salt banks gathered the salt, and it was split to give free power. These towers are all parts of machines. I thought I would take a quick look away from Scotland and look at this area in America, since it is where it's recorded golf was first played. So look at the size of that machine. Look at the size of that. What beautiful structures, but they weren't living quarters. So I'm going to stop the recording now, because I can hear we making a lot of noise, and I think I've taken up too much resources. Hopefully it saves. We're back in part C, 9C. Thank you.